HMP Shepton Mallet, sometimes known as Cornhill, is a former prison located in Shepton Mallet, Somerset, England. It's the United Kingdom's oldest prison. The Category C prison has an official capacity of 165, but in June 2010 was holding 188 prisoners, with arriving prisoners having to share cells for up to a year. The prison was decommissioned in 2013 and is now run by the Campbell Group as an interactive tourism destination. They offer guided tours, ghost tours, and other activities. Shepton Mallet Prison was established as a house of correction in 1625 to comply with the 1610 Bidwell Act of King James I, requiring that every county have a prison. At the time, all prisoners, men, women and children, were held together in reportedly dreadful conditions. The prison is divided into 4 wings. B Wing, the largest Victorian wing, with a capacity of 94 inmates over 3 floors. C Wing, a similar layout to B Wing, but with a capacity of 43 inmates over 3 floors. A Wing, a long narrow wing with cells on one side, set over 3 floors with a capacity of 37. And D Wing, a closed wing over 2 floors with a capacity of 15 inmates. And a segregation, which was 3 cells separated from the rest of the population with a 24-hour watch cell. In 1790, additional land was purchased to extend the prison, and around this time, men and women began to be held in separate areas. Further extensions were carried out from 1817 to 1822, with the prison holding about 200 prisoners. In 1823, a large treadwheel designed by William Cuckbit and built by the Slothers of Bath was added to the prison. Men who had been sentenced to hard labour would serve their punishment on this. 40 men would tread the wheel for many hours at a time, a punishment which was recorded as causing hernias in some convicts. The wheel was used to power a grain mill situated outside the prison wall. The wheel remained in use until 1890. Other prisoners were engaged in breaking stones, which were used for road building, oakum picking, and other tasks. Ilchester Gallows closed in 1843, with the inmates being transferred to Shepton Mallet and Taunton. In 1845, the prison was recorded as holding 270 prisoners. By 1897, the population was only 61, overseen by a governor, 3 wardens, 6 assistant wardens, and a night watchman. Other staff included a chaplain, an assistant chaplain, a surgeon, a matron, and a schoolmaster. In 1884, it was designed as a country gallows for Somerset and under the Princeton Act of 1877. In 1930, the prisoner commissions recommended to the government that Shepton Mallet should be closed because it was being underused, having an average population in the previous years of only 51 inmates. The prison closed in September of that year, with the prisoners and some of the staff transferring to other jails in neighbouring counties. The prison itself remained empty, except for a caretaker, until the outbreak of the Second World War. At the start of World War II, the prison reopened to become a British military prison, known as the Glass House. This changed in 1942 after the US entered the conflict and took over the prison. At one time between 1942 and 1945, over 700 US servicemen were incarcerated here. 16 US servicemen were also hanged, and a further 2 executed by a firing squad during these years. Throughout the war, the Old Women's Wing became a top-secret repository for the National Service Archives, as 300 tons of records from archive materials moved from the Public Records Office in London for safekeeping. This included such priceless items as the Magna Carta Doomsday Book. After the Americans left at the end of the war, the prison reverted back to a British military prison. It was during this time that the prison held the infamous London gangsters, Ronnie and Reggie Kray. The prison was returned to civilian use in 1966. It was initially housed for prisoners who, for their own protection, couldn't be housed with run-of-the-mill prisoners. It was also for well-behaved first offenders. The gallows in the execution block were removed in 1967, and the room became the prison library. A new kitchen, boiler and chapel and education block were added. In 1973, Shepton Mallet became a training prison for men serving sentences for less than 4 years. The aim was to provide the inmates with education and skills necessary for them to become productive members of society after their release. There were now about 260 prisoners who worked in the range of workshops, including plastic moulding, tailoring, and scrap metal recovery. Some also worked outside the prison, for example in the local park or churchyard, on local farms, or at the local Bayard cider mill. In 2001, the role of the prison changed once more, as it was re-rolled to become a Category C male lifers prison. The inmates held at this time had been found guilty for some of the most serious offences, including murder, but would most likely have already spent a considerable amount of time inside before arriving at Shepton Mallet Prison, and therefore were a lower security risk. The prison was finally decommissioned on the 28th of March 2013 in a ceremony held on the exercise yard, attended by officers and staff, past and present, and many others. After closure, the prison was put up for sale by the Ministry of Justice. The original deadline to declare a preferred bidder for the site was at the end of March 2014, but this was put back until mid-August. Proposals for the site included converting the prison into a heritage centre with a hotel, bar and restaurants, as well as housing, or converting it into a complex with a museum, gym, hotel, or potentially ghost and horror tours. The proposals were all rejected in October. On the 24th of December 2014, it was announced that Shepton Mallet, along with Dorchester Prison, Gloucester Prison and Kingston Prison, had been bought and sold to City and Country. It's now open as the public historical tourism destination, offering guided tours, ghost tours and a variety of other activities. The prison is associated with many tales of paranormal activity and ghosts, the most famous being the White Lady. In the 1970s, the Home Office were requested to investigate some strange happenings in one of the wings. An increase in prisoners requesting additional bedding due to the cold draft was becoming an issue, and the occasional smell of sweet perfume that would drift about the prison. Prisoners were becoming uncomfortable in their cells, and officers started to refuse working night shifts. The Home Office carried out a 3-day investigation, and the results remained inconclusive. As the years passed, new reports were coming in as the drafts would continue, and so would the smell of the sweet perfume. Some night officers would report seeing shadows of a white figure standing on the stairs. The story of the White Lady was revealed after some research. She had murdered her husband and was brought to Shepton Mallet Prison for her final days before being hanged in the town centre. The night before her execution, she was offered a final request. She asked to wear her wedding dress. The morning of her execution, the door to her cell swung open, and to the surprise of the officers, her lifeless body laid there on the bed. The officers silently checked her body for a reason behind her death. No marks were found, and it was concluded that she must have died of a broken heart. She is said to still wander the wings and has been reported to be seen on multiple occasions, and if she isn't seen, the smell of a sweet perfume has been reported to waft through the prison. Thank you for listening, that's all for today. But if you'd like to see the prison with your own 2 eyes, and you're brave enough, feel free to go and do a ghost tour.